The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with a soft hum of voices, each one belonging to a representative from a different species. The room itself was massive, its walls lined with glowing panels that displayed holographic images of faraway worlds. In the center stood Daniel Harper, a tall man with sharp features and piercing blue eyes. He wore a simple gray suit, standing out among the vibrant robes and intricate armor of the alien delegates. His hands were clasped behind his back as he waited for the murmurs to die down. Today was the day humanity would make its stand. For years Earth had been part of the Galactic Council, an alliance of civilizations working together to maintain peace and share knowledge across the stars. At first it had seemed like a dream come true, a chance for humans to prove themselves on a cosmic scale, but over time cracks began to show. Many on Earth felt the Council treated humanity as second-class members, always favoring older, more established species. Others argued that the rules imposed by the Council stifled human progress, forcing them to conform instead of innovate. Daniel had heard all these arguments, and now he carried their weight on his shoulders. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice calm but firm, today I speak not just for myself but for billions of people back on my home planet. After much deliberation we have reached a decision. He paused, letting his words sink in. The room fell silent, every eye or equivalent fixed on him. Earth will no longer remain a member of this assembly. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward in shock while others exchanged worry glances. A tentacled creature floated closer, its skin shimmering with iridescent colors. Do you understand what you are doing? It asked, its voice deep and resonant. Leaving the Council is unprecedented. It disrupts the balance we have worked so hard to achieve. Daniel nodded. I understand the risks, but staying would mean sacrificing our freedom, our identity. Humanity values exploration, creativity, and independence. We cannot thrive under restrictions that limit those principles. A reptilian delegate hissed angrily, slamming a clawed hand onto the table. You act as though you are above us. You forget that your kind only joined this council because we allowed it. The tension in the room was palpable. Daniel took a step forward, meeting the gaze of each being present. This isn't about superiority or ingratitude. It's about self-determination. Humans have grown since joining the council. Now it's time for us to chart our own course. As the session ended, the chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted accusations, while others whispered nervously about what this meant for the galaxy. Outside, reporters swarmed the exits, eager for statements, but Daniel ignored them, his mind focused on something else entirely. Moments after the announcement, a strange tremor rippled through space. It wasn't felt physically, but instruments across nearby systems detected unusual fluctuations in starlight. Stars flickered faintly, then returned to normal. Back on Earth, scientists scrambled to analyze the phenomenon. Laura Bennett, an astronomer monitoring data from deep space telescopes, noticed the anomaly immediately. She called her colleague Ethan Cole into the lab. What do you think caused this? Ethan asked, scratching his head as he studied the readouts. I don't know, Laura admitted, frowning at the screen, but it started right after Harper's speech. Coincidence? Maybe, or maybe there's More going on here than anyone realizes. Unbeknownst to them, the tremor was a warning, a sign that the universe itself had taken notice of humanity's bold move. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, ancient forces stirred, awakened by the breaking of old bonds, and though no one knew it yet, the stars were trembling not just in fear but in anticipation. Back on Earth, the news of humanity's departure from the Galactic Council spread quickly. Social media platforms buzzed with reactions, some celebrating freedom, while others voiced fear about what might come next. In cities around the globe, protests erupted. Some groups waved flags and cheered, believing this was a step toward true independence. Others held signs demanding answers, worried that leaving the council would isolate Earth and leave it vulnerable to threats beyond human understanding. At NASA headquarters, Laura Bennett sat in front of multiple computer screens, her brow furrowed as she analyzed incoming data. The tremor that had rippled through space after Daniel Harper's announcement still puzzled her. Ethan Cole leaned over her shoulder, pointing at one of the graphs on the screen. "Look at this," he said. "Stars near our territory are dimming. It's like they're flickering out." Laura nodded slowly, her fingers flying across the keyboard to pull up more information. "It's not random. There's a pattern here, but I can't figure it out yet." She paused, staring at the numbers scrolling before her. "If this continues, entire systems could go dark." Ethan frowned, rubbing the back of his neck. "You think it has something to do with us leaving the council?" "I don't know," Laura admitted, "but it's too much of a coincidence. Something big is happening out there, and we need to find out what." While scientists worked tirelessly to understand the phenomenon, political tensions escalated. Senator Paul Mitchell stood in front of a crowd of reporters outside Capitol Hill, his face red with anger. "This reckless decision by Daniel Harper has put us all in danger," he shouted. "We should never have left the council without a clear plan for how to protect ourselves." His words fueled debates across the planet. Some people agreed with him, accusing Harper of acting impulsively. Others defended the move, arguing that humanity couldn't grow if it stayed under the thumb of alien overlords. Amidst the chaos, intelligence operative Sophian Guillen quietly dug deeper. Working from a secure office in Washington, D.C., she sifted through classified documents and intercepted communications. Her instincts told her there was more to the story than met the eye. Late one night, Sophia uncovered something startling. Series of encrypted messages between high-ranking officials within the Galactic Council. The content was vague, but one phrase stood out. Asterisk. Project Starfare asterisk. Intrigued, Sophia cross-referenced the term with older files and found references to a secret experiment conducted decades ago on a distant colony. According to the records, the project involved harvesting energy directly from stars. It had been shut down due to unforeseen consequences. But now Sophia wondered if someone had restarted it, or worse, if the technology had fallen into the wrong hands. Meanwhile, public opinion grew increasingly divided. Families gathered around dinner tables to argue about the future. Friends stopped speaking to each other over differing views. Even schools became battlegrounds for heated discussions. Teachers struggled to keep classrooms focused as students debated whether humanity had made the right choice, Daniel Harper felt the weight of it all pressing down on him. He spent long hours locked in his office reading reports and listening to voicemails, filled with both praise and vitriol. One evening, as he stared out the window at the city lights below, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hesitating for only a moment, he answered. Harper. Distorted voice said, "You've stirred something you don't understand. Be careful who you trust, even among your own." The lion went dead before Daniel could respond. He sat there gripping the phone tightly, his mind racing. Was it a prank, a warning, or proof that someone closer to home had orchestrated the events leading up to Earth's exit from the Council? As days passed, the situation worsened. More stars began to dim and panic started to creep into society. People looked to the skies uneasily, wondering if their world would be next. Laura and Ethan worked non-stop trying to piece together the mystery. Sophia followed leads, determined to uncover the truth behind Project Starfire, and Daniel, burdened by guilt and uncertainty, prepared himself for whatever storm was coming. Somewhere far beyond Earth, the tremors continued. Whatever force had been awakened wasn't done yet, and humanity had no idea what awaited them. Captain Rachel Monroe stood on the bridge of the Starship Odyssey, her sharp green eyes scanning the vast expanse of space ahead. The ship was sleek and modern, its silver hull glinting faintly under the light of distant stars. Beside her, Jake Lawson adjusted controls at the helm, his fingers moving quickly over the glowing panels. In the science station behind them, Dr. Grace Taylor reviewed data streaming in from their sensors. Her expression grew more serious with each passing moment. "Anything new?" Rachel asked, breaking the tense silence. Grace looked up, pushing a strand of dark hair out of her face. "The anomalies are spreading, more stars are flickering near the edge of our territory. Whatever this is, it's accelerating." Rachel nodded, her jaw tightening. "We need answer. Set a course for the nearest affected region." Jake glanced back at her. "Are you sure? We don't know what we're heading into. That's why we're going," Rachel replied firmly. "If we don't investigate, who will?" The Odyssey surged forward, its engines humming softly as it entered uncharted space. Hours turned into days as they traveled deeper into the void. The crew worked tirelessly, monitoring readings and preparing for anything they might encounter. Finally, they reached the source of one of the disturbances, a cluster of stars that blinked unpredictably, casting eerie shadows across the ship's viewport. "This doesn't look natural," Grace murmured, studying the data. "It's almost like something is draining energy from these stars." Before anyone could respond, the ship's systems picked up faint energy signatures emanating from a nearby sector. It wasn't strong enough to pinpoint exactly, but it suggested there was something or someone out there. "We should check it out," Jake said cautiously. Rachel hesitated for only a moment before giving the order, "Take us in." As they approached the source, the sensors revealed a small, desolate planet orbiting a dying star. Its surface was barren, scarred by craters, and covered in dust. There were no signs of life, but structures jutted out from the ground, remnants of what appeared to be an abandoned colony. "What happened here?" Grace whispered, leaning closer to the monitor. The team suited up and boarded a shuttle, descending toward the planet's surface. The air was thin and cold as they stepped outside there, boots crunching against the rocky terrain. Jake led the way, his hand resting on the weapon strapped to his side. Rachel followed closely, scanning their surroundings with a cautious gaze. They entered one of the buildings, finding it eerily intact. Desks were still lined with papers, chairs overturned as if the inhabitants had fled suddenly. Grace knelt beside table, picking up a dusty notebook filled with scribbled equations and diagrams. This place was conducting experiments, she said, flipping through the pages. Energy extraction from stars. They must have been trying to harness stellar power, but something went wrong. Rachel added grimly, and now the entire galaxy is paying the price. As they explored further, Jake discovered a hidden vault buried beneath the main building. Using a portable scanner, he managed to crack the lock and open the heavy door. Inside they found stacks of classified documents detailing the colony's work. Grace skimmed through the files, her face growing pale. This isn't just about energy extraction, she said quietly. They tapped into something ancient, something alive within the stars themselves. Before anyone could process her words, alarms blared throughout the base. Back on the Odyssey, automated systems reported critical failures. The ship's engine sputtered, leaving them stranded on the planet below. Well, that's not good, Jake muttered, looking up at the sky. Rachel clenched her fists, determination flashing in her eyes. We'll figure this out. Let's focus on what we can control for now. That means finding a way to survive, but deep down, none of them knew if they'd make it off the planet alive, or what awaited them beyond the horizon. The hidden vault beneath the abandoned colony revealed more than just documents. As Grace Taylor sifted through the files, her hands trembled slightly. The papers spoke of an experiment that had gone far beyond simple energy extraction. They described a process designed to tap into the core of stars, not just for power but to manipulate their very essence. What chilled her most was the mention of something referred to only as the Sleeper, an ancient force said to reside within the stars themselves. Rachel Monroe stood nearby, her arms crossed as she watched Grace work. What does it mean? She asked, her voice low and urgent. This Sleeper, is it connected to what's happening out there? Grace hesitated. Before answering, she adjusted her glasses and took a deep breath. It seems they woke something up, something old and dangerous. These notes suggest the entity feeds on stellar energy. By tampering with the stars, they may have triggered its awakening. Jake Lawson leaned against the wall, his face pale. So we're stuck here because of some cosmic monster. Great. Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them shuddered violently. Dust fell from the ceiling and the dim emergency lights flickered. Outside, the wind howled like a living thing, carrying an unnatural chill. The team exchanged worried glances. We need to find a way back to the ship, Rachel said firmly. If we don't fix the engine soon, we'll be trapped here forever. Grace nodded but held up one of the documents. Not yet. There's something else here. Contingency plan, if things went wrong. They built a failsafe system in the facility. It might give us a temporary solution. A temporary solution to what? Jake demanded. Stopping this thing or getting us killed faster? Both, Grace admitted quietly. Activating the fail safe would stabilize the star feeding the entity for now, but it requires restarting the colony's reactor, and doing so, well, it'll likely destroy the planet. Silence filled the room as the weight of her words sank in. Restarting the reactor meant risking their lives and sacrificing any hope of returning to Earth safely, yet doing nothing meant letting the entity spread unchecked, consuming more stars and plunging entire systems into darkness. Rachel broke the silence first. We don't have much time. Let's gather what we need and decide our next move. They split up to search the facility for supplies and tools. Jake scavenged spare parts from maintenance rooms while Rachel secured food and water rations. Grace stayed behind in the vault, piecing together instructions for activating the reactor. Each step felt heavier than the last, the reality of their situation pressing down on them as night fell, or what passed for night on this desolate world. The temperature dropped sharply. Back in the main building, they regrouped around a makeshift table covered in blueprints and notes. Grace pointed to a diagram of the reactor. Here's the control panel. We can use these overrides to trigger the fail-safe remotely, but someone will need to stay behind to monitor the process and ensure it works. You mean someone has to die here? Jake said bluntly. Grace looked away, unable to meet his gaze. Rachel stepped forward, her expression resolute. I'll do it. I'm the captain. This is my responsibility. No, Grace interrupted, shaking her head. You're needed out there to warn Earth and the rest of the galaxy. I'll stay. I understand the science better anyway. If anything goes wrong, I'll have a better chance of fixing it. Jake slammed his fist on the table. No one's staying. We're getting off this rock together. Rachel placed a hand on his shoulder. We don't have a choice. If we all leave, the entity keeps growing. Grace is right. We need someone to make sure this works. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, Jake sighed and ran a hand through his hair. Fine, but we're not leaving until the last possible second. By morning, they had everything ready. The reactor hummed faintly as Grace prepared to activate the fail-safe. Rachel and Jake stood at the entrance of the facility, their faces grim. Thank you, Rachel said softly, for everything. Grace managed a small smile. Just get out of here. Tell them what happened. Make sure no one makes this mistake again. As Rachel and Jake climbed into the shuttle, the ground began to shake again. Behind them, the reactor roared to life, casting an eerie glow over the crumbling structure. The Asterisk Odyssey Asterisk loomed in the distance, its damaged hull reflecting the light of the dying star. But even as they lifted off, none of them knew if their sacrifice would be enough, or if the sleeper had already awakened too fully to stop. Back on Earth, the situation grew worse with each passing day. The stars continued to flicker and dim, and panic spread like wildfire. People looked up at the night sky with fear in their eyes, wondering if their world would be next. In cities around the globe, protests turned into riots as frustration boiled over. Some blamed Daniel Harper for leaving the Galactic Council, while others accused alien species of secretly plotting against humanity. Amid the chaos, Senator Paul Mitchell seized the opportunity to push his agenda. In a packed auditorium, Mitchell stood behind a podium, his face red with anger as he addressed a crowd of reporters and politicians. This crisis proves what I've been saying all along, he declared, slamming his fist on the table for emphasis. Daniel. Harper acted recklessly when he pulled us out of the council. Now look where we are, facing a disaster we don't even understand. His words stirred outrage among those who already doubted Harper's leadership. Protesters gathered outside government buildings holding signs that read *, bring us back to the council *, and * Harper betrayed us *, but not everyone agreed. Supporters of the decision argued that staying in the council would have meant sacrificing human independence forever. Tensions ran high, dividing families, friends, and communities. Meanwhile, intelligence operative Sophia Guillen worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. Sitting in her dimly lit office, she sifted through files and intercepted communications, piecing together clues about Project Starfire. Her research led her to an old scientist named Dr. Alan Carter, one of the original researchers involved in the project. Though retired, Carter lived quietly in a small town outside Chicago. Sophia tracked him down, hoping he could shed light on what had gone wrong. Carter was hesitant at first, visibly uneasy as Sophia explained why she was there. That project should have been buried, he muttered, pacing back and forth in his cluttered living room. We didn't know what we were dealing with. Tell me everything, Sophia urged. Time is running out. With a heavy sigh, Carter began to explain. We thought we could harness energy from stars without consequences, but something woke up. It wasn't just energy, it was alive. Ancient, powerful. Once it started consuming, we couldn't stop it. Sophia scribbled notes furiously, her mind racing. Do you think this entity is connected to what's happening now? I don't think we know, Carter said grimly. Whatever they did out there, it triggered the same thing again, and this time it's spreading faster. Armed with this information, Sophia rushed to share her findings with Daniel Harper. She found him in his office, staring out the window at the restless city below. When she told him about Carter's warnings, his face turned pale. We need to act fast, he said, gripping the edge of his desk. But how do we fight something like this? Before Sophia could answer, Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, a message from an unknown sender. The text read *, trust no one, not even your closest allies. *. Daniel froze, his heart pounding. What does this mean? He whispered, more to himself than to Sophia. It means someone knows more than they're letting on, Sophia replied, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. And whoever it is might be closer than we think. As they tried to make sense of the cryptic warning, news arrived from space. Jake Lawson had managed to escape the doomed colony planet and was en route back to Earth with critical information. His transmission crackled over NASA's communication channels, reaching Laura Bennett and Ethan Cole as they worked. Late into the night, we found evidence of experiments tied to Project Starfire, Jake reported, his voice strained with exhaustion. The entity feeding on the stars, it's real. Grace stayed behind to activate a fail-safe. But I don't know if it worked. Laura exchanged a worried glance with Ethan. How much time do we have? Not enough, Jake replied. You need to warn everyone. This isn't just our problem anymore. It's going to affect the entire galaxy. The weight of his words hung in the air. Humanity stood on the brink of catastrophe, unsure whether their actions had sealed their fate or if there was still time to undo the Damage, Jake Lawson's return to Earth, brought both hope and dread. His shuttle touched down at a secured NASA facility, where Laura Bennett and Ethan Cole were, waiting anxiously. The moment he stepped out, his face pale and drawn from exhaustion, they knew the situation was worse than they had imagined. Jake handed over a data chip containing everything Grace Taylor had uncovered about the entity, the sleeper, and the failed attempts to contain it. Inside the lab, Laura inserted the chip into a computer, her hands trembling slightly. As she accessed the files, the screen filled with diagrams, equations, and fragmented notes detailing the colony's experiments. Ethan leaned closer, his brow furrowed as he read aloud. They weren't just extracting energy, they were trying to control the stars themselves, and now this thing is consuming them. Laura nodded grimly. If we don't stop it, more stars will die. Entire systems could collapse. As they analyzed the data, Daniel Harper arrived at the facility, accompanied by Senator Paul Mitchell. The tension between them was palpable. Mitchell glared at Jake, his voice sharp. You left someone behind, a scientist no less. What kind of operation is this? It wasn't my choice, Jake shot back, his tone defensive. Grace stayed to give us a chance. She knew what was at stake. Daniel held up a hand to silence them. Arguing won't help anyone. We need to focus on what matters, stopping this entity before it spreads further. Sophie and Guian joined the group, carrying fresh intelligence she had gathered. We've identified traces of similar experiments in other parts of the galaxy, she explained. It seems the Galactic Council knew about Project Starfire but kept it hidden. Someone wanted this technology for themselves, and now we're paying the price. Revelation shocked everyone in the room. Daniel clenched his fists, anger flashing in his eyes. So the Council let this happen. They gambled with the lives of entire civilizations. It looks that way, Sophie admitted, but right now pointing fingers won't save us. We need a plan. Laura stepped forward, holding up a blueprint from the data chip. Grace mentioned a failsafe system designed to stabilize the affected stars temporarily. If we can replicate it on a larger scale, we might buy ourselves some time. Ethan shook his head. That's easier said than done. Building something like that would require resources we don't have and cooperation from every nation on Earth and maybe beyond. Daniel added quietly, if the Council was involved in creating this mess, they owe us their help. Despite the mounting challenges, a sense of determination settled over the group. They divided tasks. Laura and Ethan worked on designing a device based on Grace's research, while Daniel reached out to global leaders to rally support. Sophia focused on gathering allies within the Galactic Council, hoping to convince alien species to set aside old grudges and join humanity in the fight. Days turned into weeks as the team raced against time. News of the spreading phenomenon dominated headlines worldwide, uniting people in fear and resolve. Protests gave way to calls for action, and even Senator Mitchell softened his stance, realizing the gravity of the threat. Meanwhile, far beyond Earth, Grace Taylor remained on the desolate planet, monitoring the reactor's failsafe. The ground shook constantly, and the air grew colder with each passing hour. She recorded messages for Rachel Monroe, who was safely aboard the Odyssey describing the entity's behavior and warning of its growing strength. This thing isn't just consuming energy, it's learning, Grace whispered into her recorder. If it breaks free, nothing will stop it. Her final transmission came late one night. The screen flickered as static interrupted her voice. I've done all I can. Tell them to hurry. Then the signal cut off completely. Back on Earth, the teen received her message with heavy hearts. Laura wiped away tears as she replayed it, vowing to honor Grace's sacrifice. We'll finish this, she said firmly. For her and for everyone. With renewed urgency, humanity prepared for its greatest challenge yet. But deep in space, the sleeper stirred, its hunger insatiable. Time was running out. The coalition fleet gathered at the edge of human territory, a massive assembly of ships representing not just Earth but several alien species as well. It was an unprecedented sight. Human vessels alongside those of the Galactic Council members, all united by a common goal. The stars flickered ominously in the distance, their light dimming with each passing moment. On board the lead Odyssey Captain Rachel Monroe stood on the bridge, her face set with determination. Beside her, Jake Lawson stared out at the fleet, his hands gripping the railing tightly. We've never done anything like this before, Jake said, breaking the silence. Do you think it'll work? Rachel didn't answer. Immediately, she glanced at the device secured in the cargo hold, a massive machine designed by Laura Bennett and Ethan Cole based on Grace Taylor's research. It wasn't perfect, but it was their only hope. We have to believe it. Will, she finally replied. If we fail, there won't be another chance. Far below on Earth, Daniel Harper watched the live feed from Mission Control. The room buzzed with activity as scientists and engineers monitored every detail of the operation. Laura sat at her station, her eyes glued to the screens displaying real-time data. Ethan paced nervously behind her, muttering calculations under his breath. They had spent weeks refining the device, testing it in simulations, and praying it would hold up under real conditions. This is it, Laura whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Everything depends on this. Meanwhile, Sophie and Guan worked tirelessly to maintain communication between Earth and the fleet. Diplomacy had been her strength, and she had managed to secure support from key members of the Galactic Council. Even former adversaries agreed to contribute resources and technology, recognizing that survival depended on unity. But despite the cooperation, tensions lingered. Some alien delegates still distrusted humanity, blaming them for awakening the sleeper. Sophia did her best to smooth over conflicts, reminding everyone of the stakes. As the fleet approached the heart of the anomaly, strange energy readings filled the monitors. The sleeper's presence was undeniable now, a pulsating force radiating from the dying stars. Grace's final messages played in Rachel's mind as the Odyssey moved closer. It's learning, she had said. Those words haunted Rachel, fueling her resolve. Prepare for deployment, Rachel ordered, her voice firm. Crew members scrambled to position the device near the epicenter of the disturbance. The plan was risky. The machine needed to absorb and neutralize the entity's energy without collapsing under the strain. If it failed, the entire fleet could be destroyed. Back on Earth, Daniel addressed the global population in a live broadcast. Today we stand together, not just as humans but as part of something greater, he said, his Tone steady, this fight isn't just for us, it's for every living being in the galaxy. Let's show them what we're capable of. The countdown began. On board the Odyssey *. Rachel gave the order to activate the device. A low hum filled the air as the machine powered up, its surface glowing brighter with each second. Energy surged through it, drawn from the surrounding stars. For a moment it seemed to work. The flickering lights stabilized and the tremors subsided, but then alarms blared. The device's core temperature spiked dangerously high. It's overheating, one of the engineers shouted. Hold steady, Rachel commanded. We can't stop now. In space, the sleeper reacted violently. Waves of energy rippled outward, shaking the fleet. Ships struggled to maintain formation as their systems faltered. On Earth, Laura frantically adjusted the controls remotely, trying to stabilize the device. Sweat dripped down her face as she worked, knowing failure meant doom for billions. And then, just as hope seemed lost, the device emitted a blinding flash. The energy surge reversed, pulling the entity back into dormancy. One by one, the stars began to shine brightly again. Silence fell across the fleet as the crew processed what had happened. They had succeeded, but at a cost. The device was destroyed, and several ships had sustained heavy damage. Yet, amidst the destruction, there was relief. The galaxy had survived. For now, Rachel looked out at the renewed stars, her heart heavy but hopeful. Let's go home, she said softly. The victory was bittersweet. The galaxy had been saved for now, but the scars of the battle lingered. On board the Odyssey *, Captain Rachel Monroe stood on the bridge, staring at the stars that once again shone brightly in the vast expanse of space. Her crew moved quietly around her, tending to repairs and assessing the damage. The device they had deployed was gone, consumed in its final act of heroism. Jake Lawson sat nearby, his face pale and weary, replaying Grace Taylor's last message over and over. His mind, she gave us a chance, he murmured to himself. We owe it to her to make this count. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted across cities and towns. People gathered in streets and parks, cheering as news of the mission's success spread. Fireworks lit up the night sky, painting streaks of color against the backdrop of restored starlight. But not everyone felt joy. Families mourned those who hadn't returned. Scientists, engineers, and crew members who had sacrificed everything for the cause. Laura Bennett sat alone in her lab, surrounded by empty coffee cups and scattered papers. Tears streamed down her face as she thought of Grace, whose bravery had made the impossible possible. Daniel Harper addressed the world once more, standing before cameras with a mixture of pride and humility. Today marks a new beginning, he said, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. We faced an enemy we barely understood, and together with allies from across the galaxy, we stood firm. But let this also be a lesson. Our actions have consequences, and unity is our greatest strength. His words resonated deeply, even among former critics like Senator Paul Mitchell. Though still skeptical of Harper's leadership, Mitchell acknowledged the importance of cooperation. Moving forward, this isn't just about humanity anymore, he admitted during a press conference. If we want to survive, we need to work with others, not against them. In the days that followed, Earth began rebuilding. The global effort to construct the device had united nations in ways no one had imagined. Factories reopened, research facilities expanded, and communities came together to heal. Scientists like Laura and Ethan continued studying the phenomenon, determined to understand how the sleeper had been awakened and ensure it never happened again. Their work became a symbol of hope, a reminder that knowledge could overcome fear. Sophie and Gian played a key role in fostering renewed ties with the Galactic Council. Alien delegates arrived on Earth for the first time since humanity's departure, eager to discuss what had transpired. Meetings were held in neutral locations, where representatives shared information about similar incidents in their own histories. It turned out the sleeper wasn't unique to human experiments. It had been encountered before, though rarely spoken of due to its destructive nature. We can't keep secrets like this anymore, one alien ambassador said during a session. What affects one of us affects all of us, though trust remained fragile. Progress was undeniable. Humanity's courage in facing the crisis earned respect from species who had once dismissed them as inexperienced newcomers. Slowly, old wounds began to heal, paving the way for a stronger alliance as life returned to normal, or as close to normal as it could be. Rachel and her crew prepared to return home. Standing on the deck of the Odyssey, Rachel looked out at the endless horizon of stars. She thought of Grace, whose sacrifice had saved so many, and whispered a silent "Thank you." Nearby, Jake tightened his grip on the railing, vowing to honor her memory by continuing to explore the unknown. For humanity, the road ahead would not be easy. Questions remained about the true nature of the sleeper and whether it could ever fully awaken again. But for the first time in weeks, there was light in the darkness, promise of hope and renewal. And as long as the stars continued to shine, they would carry the story of resilience, unity, and survival into the future.